In this section, we're going to start using the XForm tools. First of all, let me add a new box. Very simple box, and accept. The first part is the transform, and the transform allows us to play with the position of this object, which is basically something that we have done for some time now. Now you can do some things related to the pivot, which is not a thing that you will do all the time, but it's good to have a reference about how to do it. For example, here you can move the pivot of the object without having to move the object. And if you ask me, this is one of the most important things to do here. You can explore the rest ones and see what you can, if needed, to use in your own project. Now, let's go to the other things. For example, let's say that I have this object that I just created a moment ago, and with Alt and click and dragging, I'm creating a copy of the same object. As you can see here, we have this box 4 and box 5, and they both have the same static mesh. But let's say that I want to create a complete mesh that includes these two. Well, I'm just going to select one, then shift click the other. And here I click over merge. Now, when I accept, I have an entire object that has, at the same time, combined two static meshes. And if you go to the static mesh, you can see that now you have a static mesh that includes two objects. I can drag here, and as you can see, we have a new mesh that includes these two objects. Now, let's say that I have this object, which is a combined object, and I want to separate the elements. Let me delete this one. Now let's get to that one. And as you can see, we have here basically two meshes, even though right now they are considered like just one mesh. In this case, I select the object and I will go to the option of split. A split will allow me to transform the two objects into different options. They can say from the input, the output is going to be, but I can also transform them into volume or dynamic mesh, depending on what I want to do. Let's say in this case that I want to transform it exactly on the same type of the input, which is a static mesh actor. As I click accept, now I have two different objects. I can move this one to one side, I can move this one to the other. And if you check one of the meshes, you see that has one static mesh different to the other object. Even though the shape is exactly the same, we are creating two different meshes. Now, let's say that I don't like the pivot where it is located on this mesh. Well, I just have to select the object, select Edit Pivot, and now I have multiple options. You can check this warning to see what are you going to modify. Now, let's say that I want the pivot to be on the bottom, and immediately it will be on the center of the button. But I can also select the center of the object, the top, left, right, back, front, world origin, which is the world origin here. Let's say that I will take the bottom. And now let's say that I want this corner. Well, if I want this corner, I have enabled my snap tool, and I just have to move this object one position and accept. As you can see now, when we check our actor, which is this one, we are creating a new one which has the pivot position in another corner. This one has the one that was originally generated when we split these two objects. Let me take this object and say I want to edit the pivot, and in this case I want to put it on the bottom and accept. So here you have two different objects that we split and that they have at the same time their pivot in different positions.